The entrance to the Thomas bunker, as I'd taken to calling it, was hidden beneath an old groundskeeper's shed on the Wayne estate. 3 miles outside Gotham proper, surrounded by woods that had grown wild over the decades. I descended the steel staircase, my shoulder still bleeding through the makeshift bandage I'd wrapped around it. The bunker opened up into something that defied its name. Dick Grayson had lived here once, back when he was Robin, and he'd made it a home. The main space stretched out like an underground apartment, complete with a training area, a small kitchenette, and walls lined with weapons and equipment that Bruce had accumulated over the years. Computer monitors glowed in the corner, linked to Bruce's main systems in the manor. "You made it back," Alfred's voice came through the speakers, warm despite the tinny quality. "Master Bruce said you encountered the Penguin's associates." "More like they encountered me," I muttered, peeling off the torn spandex. The fabric came away sticky with blood. "This costume is worthless, Alfred." "Master Bruce did warn you about proper protection, Miss Renee." I smiled despite the pain. Alfred had this way of saying, "I told you so," without actually saying it. Yeah, is he still up?" "He retired an hour ago. His doctors insist on proper rest these days." Guilt twisted in my gut. Bruce pushed himself too hard helping me, staying up late monitoring the city, coordinating my patrols. He'd given up the cowl because his body couldn't take it anymore, but he couldn't seem to let go entirely. "Tell him I'm fine, just a scratch." A scratch that's bleeding profusely, from what the bunker's medical sensors indicate. Of course there were medical sensors. Bruce thought of everything. I moved to the training area and sat on the mat where Dick had once taught me a particularly nasty judo throw. I was 12, he was 27, and he'd just started going by Nightwing instead of Robin. Even then, there was tension between him and Bruce. 2 strong-willed men who loved each other but couldn't seem to communicate without it turning into a clash of philosophies. Dick believed Batman had become too dark, too isolated. Bruce thought Dick was being reckless, throwing away years of discipline for some idealistic crusade. The argument that finally drove Dick away happened in this very bunker. I'd been upstairs in the manor with Alfred, but we'd heard the shouting even through all that earth and steel. Dick left that night, but not before pulling me aside. "I'll always look after you, little bird," he'd said, using the same nickname the Penguin had mockingly thrown at me tonight. But I can't do this anymore. Not his way. I hadn't understood then. Now, with my own ribs aching and my shoulder torn open, I was starting to. I closed my eyes and reached for that other sense, the one the dream angels had gifted me. It felt like touching warm water, like slipping into a bath that existed in some other dimension. I let just a trickle of that power flow through me, enough to scan my body for serious damage. The shoulder wound was deep but clean. The ribs were bruised, not broken. No internal bleeding. Nothing that required reality manipulation to fix. I let the power recede, careful not to draw too much. Bruce was right to make me promise restraint. The dream angels had given me these abilities to stop Freddy Krueger, and I'd done that. Using them frivolously felt like breaking a sacred trust. Besides, heroes were supposed to bleed sometimes. It reminded us we were human. I grabbed the first aid kit from the wall and went to work on my shoulder, cleaning the wound and applying butterfly bandages. The face that stared back at me from the small mirror looked tired. Hazel eyes that had seen too much for 23 years. Dark hair matted with sweat, but also alive, vital, fighting. My ruined costume lay in a red heap on the floor. I picked it up, examining the tear. The spandex had advantages, Bruce's concerns aside. It was lightweight, allowed for the acrobatic fighting style I'd developed. But maybe I could compromise. Armor for the vital areas, spandex for mobility. I carried the costume to the workbench where Dick used to repair his gear. His tools were still here, exactly where he'd left them 5 years ago. Sometimes I wondered if he ever regretted leaving, if he missed this place, missed Bruce and Alfred and me. Missed being part of something. The costume would need more than repairs. I pulled up schematics on the computer, designs Bruce had created over the decades. Kevlar weave that could stop a blade. Reinforced plating for the torso. I could integrate it into the spandex design, keep my speed but add protection. It would take time. Time I wasn't sure I had if the Penguin and his red triangle gang were moving into action. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Enjoyed meeting you today. Coffee sometime. Esque. Selina Kyle. My heart did something complicated in my chest, a gymnastics routine that would have made my water polo coach proud. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Professional boundaries said I shouldn't. She worked for a man I was investigating. Getting involved would complicate everything. But those blue eyes, that spark of recognition, like she saw the real me beneath the reporter facade. Miss Renee, Alfred's voice interrupted my internal debate. Master Bruce left a note before retiring. The Red Triangle Gang's last known hideout was in the old Gotham City Fairgrounds. Abandoned for 15 years, but someone's been paying the property taxes. Shell Corporation traces back to Shrek Industries. I set down my phone, Selina's text unanswered. The connection between Shrek and the Penguin was forming, pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Alfred, do we have any surveillance on the fairgrounds? Negative. Master Bruce felt it was too dangerous to approach alone, and you were. Indisposed with Freddy Krueger at the time. The fairgrounds, where the Red Triangle Gang was born, back when they were just circus performers, before something twisted them into criminals. I looked at my torn costume, at my bandaged shoulder, at the modifications I'd need weeks to complete. Then I looked at Selina's text again. 2 paths forward, 2 different battles. I typed the response before I could second-guess myself. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., there's a cafe on Finger Street near Robinson Park. RT. Her reply came within seconds. Perfect. Can't wait. I set the phone down and immediately wondered what the hell I was doing. Bruce would have cautioned against this. Getting close to someone connected to an investigation was asking for trouble. But something about Selina Kyle made me want to take that risk. The next morning, I spent an embarrassing amount of time choosing what to wear. My wardrobe consisted mostly of practical clothes for stakeouts, workout gear, and a few professional outfits for interviews. I settled on dark jeans and a fitted burgundy sweater that Vicky had once said brought out the color in my eyes. Not that I cared what Selina thought about my eyes. Except I absolutely did. The Finger Street Cafe was a small place tucked between a bookstore and a vintage record shop, the kind of spot tourists never found. I arrived 15 minutes early, claiming a corner table with a view of the door. Old habit. Always know your exits, Bruce had drilled into me. Selina walked in at exactly 10 o'clock, and I felt that same electric jolt from yesterday. She wore a charcoal peacoat over a cream turtleneck, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. Those blue eyes found me immediately, and her smile transformed her whole face. "You're early," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. Reporter's habit, never miss the story. And am I a story, Miss Thomas? The way she said my name made my pulse quicken. Renee, please, and I'm hoping you're more than that. She raised an eyebrow, that smile widening. Forward, I like it. We ordered coffee, falling into conversation that felt effortless despite the circumstances. She told me about the stray cats she fed in her neighborhood, how she'd taken in 6 so far. I told her about my years playing water polo, the competitiveness that still drove me. You don't seem like the typical reporter, Selina said after our second cup arrived. There's something else about you, something intense. I could say the same about you. Executive assistant doesn't quite fit. Her expression darkened slightly. No, it doesn't, but jobs are hard to come by in Gotham, especially for someone without a college degree. You studied something, though. Martial arts, if I had to guess. I'd noticed yesterday how she moved, the controlled grace of someone with serious training. Jeet Kune Do, she confirmed. Been practicing since I was 16. It's the one thing that's kept me sane working for. She stopped herself, fingers tightening around her coffee cup. For Max Schreck. She looked up at me, something vulnerable in those eyes. You interviewed him yesterday. You saw what he's like. That charm, that philanthropy act. It's all bullshit, Renee. He's a monster. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. Tell me. Why, for your story. The question hung between us, a test. I could lie, pretend this was purely professional, but something in her gaze demanded honesty. Partly, I admitted. I think he's dangerous. I think his power plant is going to hurt people, but also because I can see he's hurting you, and I don't like that. Selena's breath caught slightly. We just met. I know, doesn't change how I feel. She was quiet for a moment, studying me like I was a puzzle she was trying to solve. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. He's planning something with the power plant. I've seen documents, heard phone calls he thinks I'm too stupid to understand. There's a group called the Red Triangle Gang. He's using them as muscle, intimidation tactics against anyone who opposes the construction. My mind raced. This confirmed what Bruce and I suspected, but having someone on the inside changed everything. There's more, Selena continued. The community center on Dixon Street, the one that feeds homeless families, he's shutting it down next month. Bought the building through a shell corporation. He's going to turn it into luxury condos. Anger flared in my chest, hot and sharp. I thought about the people I'd protected in Crime Alley, the families barely scraping by. Shrek was systematically destroying Gotham's safety nets for profit. Why are you telling me this? Selena's hand moved across the table, her fingers brushing mine. The touch sent electricity up my arm. Because yesterday, when you confronted him, you weren't afraid. Everyone's afraid of Max Schreck, but you looked at him like you could see right through him, like you were dangerous. Maybe I am, I said softly. Good, her fingers intertwined with mine. Because somebody needs to stop him, and I'm tired of being invisible, of being treated like furniture in my own life. I squeezed her hand. You're not invisible, trust me. Her smile was bittersweet. You barely know me, Renee. Then let me get you away from him, help you find something better. It's not that simple. He has connections, power. People who cross Max Schreck tend to have accidents. The threat sent a chill down my spine, but not for myself. For her. Then be careful, I said. Don't do anything that puts you at risk. I'll find another way to expose him. What if I don't want to be careful anymore? Her eyes blazed with something fierce, something that reminded me of my own reflection when I put on the mask. What if I'm tired of being a victim? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Bruce. 3 robberies in Old Gotham in the last hour. Red triangle signature. Gordon's asking questions about the vigilante in red. Stay alert. I looked up at Selena, torn between wanting to stay and needing to act. You have to go, she said, reading something in my expression. I'm sorry, work emergency. It's fine, she stood but didn't release my hand. Can I see you again? Yes, absolutely yes. She leaned down, and for one breathless moment I thought she might kiss me. Instead, her lips brushed my ear. Be careful out there, Renee Thomas. Gotham's getting more dangerous by the day. Then she was gone, leaving me with the lingering scent of her perfume and the feeling that my life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. December